every sports fan wants to go. Behind the scenes and into the practice facilities, locker rooms, coaches' offices, and press boxes to get the info before anyone else. This is the ESPN 1320 Insiders.
Welcome into the Insiders on ESPN 1320. This is our official first show. I am James Ham. Joining me, Kyle Madsen. Kyle, what's going on?
Dude, this is a top 7 day of my life.
Top 7.
Yeah, I'm saying 7. I think it's probably
top 7.
I think it's probably it might not honestly it might be higher than that. But I'm gonna go 7 because I feel like that's probably undershooting it a little bit.
Okay,
so I'm gonna stick with 7 because I'd rather go like too high of a number there than too low. I don't like it's a top 2 movement.
You're gonna go like way too high. Okay, so I'm not gonna put a number on it.
Okay.
I don't know.
You have much more life experience than me though. You've got like kids and a wife. Yes.
You're saying I'm old. That's how we're
That's
starting the first show. Kyle Madsen's coming in and
just taking shots,
calling me old, and we're gonna there's gonna be fighting words here. That's amazing. So you get fedora hand today. I am wearing the hat. Kyle has a Monarchs hat on. Welcome in, everybody. This is a huge moment for Kyle and I. It's our first initial show. We did go live on Friday and fill in for D'Lo and Casey to get work some of the kinks out, which there were plenty of kinks early on, but I thought it was pretty smooth after that. And
yeah, I think we did it.
Yeah, at 4 hours, it went by really quick, and I think 2 hours is going to go by even faster.
I hope so.
Yeah, we are the.
All right, goodbye, everybody.
We're the lead in to D'Lo and Casey, of course. The guys will be on at noon, but for today and from here on out, you're going to get us from 10 to noon, Monday through Friday. So
you're welcome.
We're super excited. We're super excited about this. Kyle, you wanted to start this day like the first day of work.
Yes.
Which I don't know. I have weird jobs.
Right.
For
yeah.
like the last 15 years.
Okay, hang on. I was gonna say, have you never had an office job?
No, I've never. No. I've never had an office job.
Take me through your employment history.
My employment history.
Let's talk resumes.
Let's see. I was a construction worker when I was young.
Okay.
I helped build the downtown plaza in 1993.
That's incredible.
So anything that they tore up, I was not sad to see it go, but I had been part of the downtown plaza build out.
Sure.
Outside of that, I worked for Copeland Sports for 7 years.
Copeland. You know what? Okay, hang on. Pause on Copeland Sports.
Yep.
There used to be one of those in the Concord Mall, Sun Valley Mall. Shout out to everybody who is like, yeah, Sun Valley. I could not for the life of me. We were over there the other day, and I could not for the life of me remember the name of the sporting goods store that was in there because it was a Copeland's and then it was a Sports Authority. RIP to both of them. And now I think it's a Round One. A big bowling and arcade and bar. It's a fun little spot. It's like small Dave and Buster's.
That was a huge store. So
they
must have broken it up into multiple stores. Yeah. So I started in Berkeley when my wife went to UC Berkeley. I started down there. Worked Hilltop for a little while, which was nuts. What is Emeryville? I worked Emeryville, moved up to Sacramento, back up to Sacramento. Worked at Downtown Plaza, which is now where the 24-hour is, right next to the arena, above what used to be the Hard Rock, which is now Sauced.
Great.
And then I worked in Roseville for a long time.
But never like an office job.
No, before that, I worked grocery. I worked for one of the major. I was a head clerk.
Okay.
For a grocery store here in the Sacramento metropolitan area. And then I stumbled into this in like 2010, which is a whole nother story. Maybe one day I'll tell that story on the air.
God, I hope so. Dude, we're going to need summer content. Let's start putting together a summer content list. And that's going to be James' story time and how he got into media. Because I legitimately want to hear that.
I literally got bamboozled.
That's a great tease. One of the things that sometimes you do when you get into a new office is you do an icebreaker. Everybody, sits around either in the lunchroom or maybe you all go out to happy hour or whatever to bring in the new people and you do a little icebreaker. We're going to do 2 truths and a lie.
Okay.
and everybody in the chatty house can participate at youtube.com/ESPN1320. So I have 2 truths here and 1 lie, and you have to suss out which one is the lie.
Okay.
And this should be a layup for anybody who knows even a small bit about me. Okay. Number 1, I have traveled far and wide. I've gone to every corner of this continent, and I've seen a baseball game in all 30 MLB stadiums. 2, I got married. Shout out to me and my wife. I got married in the North Bay at a golf course, beautiful golf course. It was officiated by Damian Barling. Number 3, I'm not a big sushi guy, but if somebody invites me to lunch, I'm going to say yes. Show up to sushi one day with a friend of mine, and that friend brought along Panthers legend Steve Smith, wide receiver. And I ate sushi with Steve Smith.
All right.
There's 2 truths in there and 1 lie.
Okay, I think I know. I think I can figure this one out. I mean, because you could say, oh, it wasn't really Steve Smith. It was some other Panthers legend, which there aren't many.
I was going to say, unless it's Steve Berline.
Like you and Kerry Collins had. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that you have not been to all 30 baseball stadiums.
Yeah, that's correct. I have not.
You have not.
Yeah.
I haven't either. And actually, my baseball stadiums, like local, like, of course, Oakland,
Sure.
Candlestick, the Giants, whatever they call it now.
Oracle Park.
Oracle. Yeah, they tend to change names all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Old Yankee Stadium,
Very jealous.
but not new Yankee Stadium.
I've been to the new one, not the old one.
Yes. See, and then I think that might be it.
Really?
I have gone to a lot of like I went to spring training and I've been there. I've been into Wrigley Field.
I was going to say you've been to Wrigley though, just not a baseball
yes,
game.
I've been. I did the Wrigley tour, which I highly recommend for everyone. It's amazing, but yeah, I haven't been to a lot of baseball stadiums.
I think I'm at 8, 9.
Okay,
I've done all the ones on the West Coast.
all the ones on the West Coast.
So Arizona, Petco, Dodger Stadium, Angel Stadium, Oracle Park, and the Coliseum. I've not done Seattle yet.
Okay, I have been to Petco, but not inside. I went to the old Jack Murphy, but for motocross, not for baseball.
See, that wouldn't count to me.
No, I don't think it counts.
Yeah. I've been to the ballpark at Arlington, not the new one, the old Rangers ballpark. Saw a game there. Citizens Bank Park, new Yankee Stadium. So I think I'm at 9.
Okay, 9.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
CBP is fun. That's a good ballpark out there in Philly.
All right.
Yeah, it's a really good time.
All right.
There's a place called the Xfinity Center. It's right across the street. And that night there was a big UFC fight. It was McGregor Diaz 2. And you got into the Xfinity Live Center, which is just this, it's like this huge bar with all these different like little food vendors and stuff inside. And they got these huge screens and TVs everywhere. Really cool spot. And if you had a baseball ticket, you got in for free.
Oh.
So me and a bunch of friends went to a game at Citizens Bank, and we were going to look for somewhere to watch a fight. And it turns out go right across the street. Had a great time. It was so much fun.
That's a good story.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good trip. It's funny, like the one that everyone out there is like, wait a sec, Damian Barling, like he officiated your wedding?
Yeah, he sure did.
For some reason, I knew that.
I've mentioned it on the show before, and I think there were probably pictures on social.
Okay.
But yeah, Damian, great wedding officiant.
I think I saw you dancing at your wedding on social.
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's
Wedding Kyle's a little different.
Wedding Kyle's a little different.
A little bit different.
So, like I don't think we have time to do 2 truths and a lie for me.
Oh, we do.
We
got 3 minutes, dog.
Okay. All right. So I would say I have 3 dogs and 2 guinea pigs at home to go with 2 children.
Okay.
I went to Sacramento State University.
Okay.
And
Stingers up.
The third one would be I once hit Francisco Garcia in the face with a basketball at practice.
If I didn't know the answer, because you just mentioned this to me the other day, if I did not know the answer, I would have picked 3, because Francisco Garcia is random enough that you made that up, but you didn't. I know you went to UC Davis.
I went to Davis.
I know you're a Davis guy.
I did not go to Sac State. Even saying that hurt.
Yeah, I could tell. That's the other thing is you're like, I went to.
How many times I get the stinger up
Dude,
from Mike
come on.
Barnbaum and like, no, Mike, no stingers up, bro. Yeah. So, welcome into the show, everybody. We're going to be here every day from 10 to noon. Kyle and I are just getting to know each other back and forth as partners here on a new show. So stick with us. There's going to be times where everything works well. There's also going to be times where it's just like, what in the world just happened? But I think we got through some of our roughness in the opener on Friday when, we had like basically the equivalent of the teleprompter going down and like
cannot tell you how excited I was at the end of the show to find out it was not my fault.
It wasn't your
I
fault.
was so thrilled. I spent the whole show with like that little pit in your stomach, like, dang it, I'm gonna have a talk with somebody and they're gonna be mad at me and I did something wrong. I didn't.
The best part is that Kyle and I are in separate rooms. Kyle is in the control room. I am in the main studio. I see it's like a fire drill going on in the other room, but no one's having any conversation with me about, hey, you're actually on the air and going and everything's going. And I'm sitting here like, all right, well, I'm going to keep talking and hope that everything works out. You here in the chatty house, we're freaking out. We have no audio. And it was wild and crazy, but we got through it. And I'm excited to do the show with Kyle. I think this is going to be a good time, and we're going to bring it every day to open up the morning here on ESPN 1320. We're going to go to break. When we get back, we're going to dive into content. Have the San Francisco 49ers completely destroyed their entire season with the Nick Bosa situation. But we're going to discuss.
Okay.
Network of tax professionals and will share information with them.
Hello, everyone. If you're in here, thank you for joining us. We already have like a bunch of people in here, which is great to see. If you don't mind, give us a thumbs up. That would be awesome as we start doing our new show. Kyle is the producer, but Jesse is also here to lend a helping hand as we get the show off the ground. And it's gonna be a little bit different. We're gonna have a few commercial breaks. Are gonna be a little bit shorter than what you're used to with Damian and Kenny, but we've got all kinds of stuff to talk about. It's gonna be fun. Plus, I wore the fedora for everyone out there. So,
yeah, when you posted the photo of the fedora last night, I was like, oh yeah,
the fedora
it's going down.
Yeah. Okay. So where are we at? Let's see. Oh, there it is. Are we live? Where's the announcement that the show is up so I can tweet it out? Maybe that's not up yet.
It's on the 1320 account.
Oh, there it is. Well, all right.
Alfonso, I want nothing more than for this to happen. Like, this is all I want out of today.
Oh, that would be cool. I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm less optimistic today than I was 2 days ago.
Okay. All right. What do we got in the chatty house? Anything happening?
Yeah, Coach Prime, we're going to get to that later. A lot of people saying congrats. Shout out to us.
Nice. Thank you.
You know what? David nailed it. I'm just going to leave this up for the whole show.
Yeah, that works. That works for me. Yeah. We're actually going to spend at least 30 minutes on Ace Talk today.
Yeah, every day.
Every day.
Carving out an Ace.
Every day is Ace Talk.
Do you know they swept the Angels this weekend?
I did know they swept the Angels. Did you know they hit 4 home runs? I've had 4 rookie home runs yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch out. All right, here you go. 10 seconds.
We've got all kinds of non-breaking news. I think that's what we have to call at this point, where everyone is sitting in a holding pattern, waiting for the San Francisco 49ers to sign their incredible defensive end, Nick Bosa. Kyle, it's not happening. What is going on here? What is the latest that we have on Nick Bosa and the San Francisco 49ers?
Dude, this is what's so fascinating about it is usually when there's like a big contract negotiation like this, especially when the holdout has gone through the offseason.
Yep.
And all of the preseason and training camp and all that. Usually there's some report in the media, they're X amount of dollars apart, or the 49ers lowballed him, or Bosa wants this. There's nothing. There's no firm reporting on anything that's going on, which leads me to believe the two sides have presented their best offers, and now they're just kind of playing chicken to see which one will wilt first. And to me, that's a failure on behalf of the 49ers.
Okay.
That's where that's at for me.
Okay, so when I'm watching like everything start to break down yesterday, it felt like, first of all, there was too many people sitting around with idle hands on Labor Day. And so it started to churn. Oh, like everything's gone south. Like nothing is happening. These two sides aren't talking. They're not meeting. To me, it feels like the entire time negotiations have been behind closed doors.
Yes.
And that's the way that the 49ers and Bosa's team decided to move forward together on this path. And I understand that. And so I think that at this point, here we are talking about it on a radio show, but I actually feel like a lot of what we're seeing over the next day, or the last 48 hours, the last 24 hours, is a lot of media driven, like angst that, oh, this thing better happen. It better happen quickly.
Yeah. Well, I think I think you mentioned Labor Day, and it's because the Niners practiced yesterday. And one of the notable things is, man, hey, Nick Bosa is still not here. And then you get Ian Rappaport reporting, oh, unless something significant happens, Bosa's not going to be there week one. Like, we know that. We know Nick Bosa is not playing without a contract. That's the fact. And the significant thing to happen would be one of the sides going, okay, fine, and capitulating.
But that's like the easiest thing to get out of all time. Oh, something significant happened. He's back. So, like, when you say nothing significant has happened, it's like, well, yeah, not a contract has not been signed, of course. Yeah.
It's the same reporting that's been done from the start of training camp.
Yeah.
Bosa didn't show up. He's not going to show up until there's a contract. The two sides are working out a deal. That was day one of camp. And now we're still here. The reason that I think a lot of people are talking about it more and more is because A, this is the Niners' biggest offseason box to check, and they did not. And B, they start practicing for the regular season tomorrow. The real thing starts in about 24 hours. And their best defensive player, the reigning defensive player of the year, is not in the building.
Okay, so I get the chaos and the panic button that's being hit. But then I sit back and I look at the first 4 weeks of the season. And I see Steelers, I see Rams, I see Giants, I see Cardinals. The 49ers should survive all 4 of those games without Nick Bosa.
I disagree.
You disagree?
I disagree.
So you think that the Nick Bosa situation could be a deciding factor of whether the San Francisco 49ers make it to the Super Bowl or are just like, I don't know, middle of the pack, maybe a little higher above the pack, but not a Super Bowl contender?
Yeah, if Nick Bosa, I don't think he's going to sit out the whole year, because that's just such with the way the CBA is, that's just bad for him. You don't want to sit out a whole year. But for the Niners, I don't think they can win a Super Bowl without him. And I think he knows that. And so I think week 13 is the latest that he could come back and still accrue a full season, right? That would get him 6 games. That marks you down for a season.
Yep.
So I think Bosa's looking at this going, I'll hang out till week 13. You see how you do. And why not? That's his leverage right now. The Niners' leverage is, hey, if you sit out the whole year, then you're going to be in the same spot you're in next year.
Though, I think there is a different leverage here, which I think people always seem to ignore. Like, Nick Bosa wants to win a Super Bowl like everyone else on the team.
No doubt.
So that is what you're missing out on. And not only that, but like, you have players on this roster that will not be here going forward. Like, there are players on this roster that are running out of time. Like, their careers, if you look at Trent Williams, Like, he's not getting any younger. Like, that's
No
not
doubt.
the way the clock works.
Mhm.
And is he willing to waste a year of everyone else's careers while he tries to figure out how much money he can get? Because, like, I get that the players should always try to maximize their dollar.
Mhm.
And I think that that's fair.
Yes.
But at the same time, if I'm a player on a Super Bowl contending team
Mhm.
and I look around and you're one of, I don't know, 10 all pros
Mhm.
that are on this roster, like, at what point do you say, okay, I would prefer to be on a great team
Mhm.
and take a little bit less than just make all the money so I can say I make more money than Aaron Donald?
Mhm.
And to me, at some point, you have to make a decision of what's right for you, but also what's right for the community that you play for.
Yeah.
And that is your teammates, the other 52 guys on the main roster and the other however many on the practice squad. But there's a balancing point here where
Mhm.
I understand this is a negotiation.
Mhm.
To quote the great David Stern, life is a negotiation.
Mhm.
And when I look at this, I do understand that, like, there are both sides. And while I think Bosa has a whole lot of, like, leverage, if they go 4-0 to start the season, his leverage starts to look less.
No doubt.
And like, is he the missing piece that gets you over the top? Sure. Unless he, blows out an ACL like 6 weeks in
Sure.
and he's gone for the rest of the season.
Mhm.
And that's where I'm not willing to say that Bosa being there is the end all be all. This is a team that has spent a lot of money, a lot of draft picks on their defensive line, on their defense in general. Sure, he makes them great. They're really good without him.
That's where I'm not totally sure yet. I think last year I probably would have agreed, like, okay, they can generate a pass rush without Nick Bosa. It's not going to be the top 1 defense, but they can still be a top 10 to 13 kind of defense even without him. But this year, if he sits out week 1, they're rolling out Cleveland Ferrell, a failed Raiders draft pick. They're rolling out Drake Jackson, who the Niners second round pick last year was a healthy scratch for the final 5 games of the season, including the playoffs, or 5 of the final 6, including the playoffs. So he is a very unproven player. You have Austin Bryant, former Detroit Lion, who hasn't been able to stay on the field when he's played. So, and Kerry Hyder, who's well past his prime.
Yes.
Like, he can play inside and outside. He knows the defense, but he's not going to be like an effective, hey, that guy's going to go get you 8 sacks. He's just not. He did that for the Niners in 2020, but he's not that player now. So I don't think they have the depth on the edges to have this dominant defensive line that they've built their entire ethos around. They are a defense first team, and that is spearheaded by the defensive line, and that defensive line is spearheaded by Nick Bosa, and that's how it's been since 2019. When you remove Nick Bosa from that equation, that's a huge piece. Like, he is the guy that makes that whole thing go. And when you remove that for crossing your fingers that Chris Kasurek can work his magic and turn Cleveland Ferrell into a 10 sack player, like, that's risky. Everything the Niners have done this offseason has been about winning the Super Bowl. That was why they did what they did with Sam Darnold and Trey Lance. That's why they signed Javon Hargrave to the big contract that they signed him to. That's how they've operated this entire offseason. Is like, urgency is at an all-time high. It is time to win the Super Bowl right now. Because, like you just mentioned, Eric Armstead, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, Kyle Juszczyk, all these guys are getting into their 30s and coming up against contracts that are going to probably have them out of San Francisco here at some point. So with this group of players, the window is shutting quickly. And to not then sign Nick Bosa, to not do whatever you need to do to get him in the building, flies in the face of everything you've done this entire offseason.
I get that, but at the same time, at some point, there has to be a number that doesn't make sense. And I know, again, he wants to make the money that the best of the best of the best make. And like his numbers say, he's incredible. Like his ability to not just get sacks, which was tops in the league, but his ability to put pressure on the quarterback, his ability to make your defensive backs look so much better. His ability to help, free up the linebackers to do what they do, because so much focus is on slowing
100%.
him, even like making the other defensive linemen better. Like, there is so much that he does do. But I also, like, what is it going to take? How much? What is the dollar figure, Kyle? What are you willing to lay out for a defensive end who doesn't throw the ball, doesn't run the ball? You know, I get it. He does great things, but how much are you willing to give?
I'll tell you on the other side.
The other side.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this on the other side. Thanks for tuning in to the Insiders here on ESPN 1320. We're going to go to break, and when we get back, we're going to start talking the nuts and bolts of this thing. How much is it going to cost to keep Nick Bosa in his San Francisco 49ers jersey? I hear. There we go. The other side. Let's see.
I have no idea how to feel about this.
Really?
I couldn't pick Kenny Pickett out of a lineup, bro.
No.
Which probably explains why he resembles me, because I'm the most generic looking dude on the planet.
Oh, that's funny. All right, so how's everyone doing in the chatty house? We need thumbs up. If you guys are out there, that would help. I know you guys got us. What else do we have going on? Cool.
You might have to go fedora every day.
I don't think I'll go fedora every day. I usually wear a baseball hat. Like when I'm not working, I wear a baseball hat every day. And
I'm gonna need to dig deep in my bag now that I'm like in front of a camera now, because at my old station I was not. But now that I am, I'm gonna have to get like deep into my hat rotation.
Okay, I mean, wearing a Monarchs hat is going.
You got to
deep
rep
into-
sack
I
day
mean,
one.
Yeah, I think you're definitely, showing up for JaVale McGee in support of his mom Pam.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah. So it's good. Maybe see, there we go. Fedora Fridays. We could do Fedora Fridays.
Ooh.
It's got to be things where we like are messing around.
Yeah.
Like big days. Sweet.
Yeah, about 15 seconds. And we're back.
Okay. Welcome back to the Insiders here on ESPN 1320. I am James Ham. Good to see you. Joining me, Kyle Madsen. We are the Insiders. Today is our launch of the new show, 10 to noon, Monday through Friday. We're super excited. Going into the break, we were talking about Nick Bosa and his contract situation. And we're to a point where, I could see him sitting out a few games, and I actually don't think it would hurt the 49ers that much. Kyle disagrees with me greatly. But Kyle, what is it going to cost? Because, defensive ends, this is a premium position.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like once you get past like quarterback, and I think it's like an equal tie between the best of the best left tackles and the best defensive linemen, the best defensive ends who put pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald set the standard. He's the guy that made just a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Jones seems to be waiting in the wings to either sets a standard for what Bosa will get or to
Yeah.
piggyback off of what Bosa gets. Where are you at with this? How much is it going to cost to get Nick Bosa into a long-term, probably 5-year deal?
So Aaron Donald's a little bit of a weird, I don't want to say weird. He's what's the outlier?
Yeah.
Because he made, I think it was 31.6 million in his last contract. It was 3 for 95, fully guaranteed. But he is there are really smart football people who will tell you he's the best defensive player of all time. He is that dominant. He is in the conversation with Lawrence Taylor and pick your favorite defender. He's in that conversation.
Okay.
So that's at defensive tackle. That's different. That's special. That's why he's getting that money. From what I understand, Chris Jones isn't looking for that. He's just trying to get up toward that number. With Bosa, if you're him and you're looking at the Aaron Donald contract and you're looking at the way NFL contracts go, you're going, okay, Aaron Donald, dominant defensive player, the dominant defensive lineman, got 3 for 95, fully guaranteed. That's 31.6. I want 32 a year. I don't think that's unreasonable. Nick Bosa is 26 years old and he just won a Defensive Player of the Year award and he's on his first huge contract. Getting 32, like, that's not insane. That's just resetting the market at your position. And if the Niners are going to look at TJ Watt, if the Niners are genuinely looking at TJ Watt's contract and going, well, TJ Watt got 28, we will give you 30. And Bosa's going, I want to be north of Aaron Donald. Get me to 32. If that's the hang up, just give him the 32, dudes. Like, just do that. What are we doing here? And I'm not a Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch guy. I think for the most part, they do a pretty good job. They've had their misses, but they've had their hits. Fine. This is a huge whiff so far. And again, we don't know for sure because Bosa might be going to the table and going, I want 40 a year. And that's nuts. That gets beyond, like, now you're talking elite quarterback money. And I'm sorry, unless you're an elite quarterback, you're not worth that. But if he wants north of Aaron Donald, yeah, sure. That's how contracts go.
Can the 49ers be sustainable if he is a $32 million player?
Especially
if we're talking all guaranteed, like, that's what he's going to want, a bunch of guaranteed money.
So I think what was the thing I turned out? I think it was 5 for 160 with 100 guaranteed. Like, it's a lot. He'd be very expensive. But when you drafted this guy and you watched him play year one, you've known since 2019, okay, this guy's going to cost top defensive player in the league money. And Aaron Donald signed his contract last year. You had to be ready for this. There's no way that the front office is sitting here shocked going, oh, he wants Aaron Donald. Oh no, I don't know how we're going to do this. Like, you traded for Christian McCaffrey knowing this was coming. You signed Trevarius Ward knowing this was coming. You've restructured all these deals knowing this was coming. You don't have to pay a quarterback. So this has been on the ledger since 2019. They've known this is coming.
So why isn't it done then? If they know it was coming, and this is like the steam train that's like coming down the tracks, it's barreling down the tracks, and like, at what point do you sidestep? And like, I heard some murmurs this weekend from, when you're out about, well, what if they trade him? They're not trading him. Like, that's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the few hits they've had at the top end of the draft.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that, like, strikes out in the biggest situations
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the top of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one that you nailed. I mean, this guy is
at a position that so remember, this is way back. They tried to trade for Khalil Mack, but the Bears put out a better offer. And John Lynch said, and Kyle Shanahan has said something to the same effect, they value a dominant game-wrecking edge rusher as just below quarterback in the pecking order of things that you want. And Kyle Shanahan, as an offensive coach, knows, hey, when there's an edge rusher who's going to just blow up our game plan, that's a disaster. That's the hardest thing to game plan around, is a guy who's just going to go win on the edge. And now they have one. They got one. Congrats. Like, they're not easy to find. So I will, if it means, hey, you know what? Maybe Deebo Samuel's got to go. Or maybe Eric Armstead's got to go. Or maybe George Kittle has to go a year earlier than we wanted him to. Fine. George Kittle turns 30 this year. Eric Armstead, God love him, is on the wrong side of 30. Like, this is all you don't punt on Nick Bosa. So unless he is asking for 40, and I'm just speculating he's asking for 32, I don't know that for sure. But if that's just a conversation, if he is sitting there wanting 40 a year or 38 a year or something crazy, then okay. But if you're the Niners and you're sitting firm, like, nope, 29, that's TJ Watt, that's the highest edge rusher, and that's what it's going to be. If that's what they're doing it wrong.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like that's how this has gone.
I don't think so either.
It feels like that there's just going to be like, he shows up and he signs a contract and it's all done and it's over with, and he slides right into the spot on the side. I know, like in the past, watching running backs that do this and hold out, they typically come in and then get hurt. That's usually like when running backs hold out, when wide receivers hold out, a lot of times this leads to injury. Is there anything with this holdout that makes you kind of a little concerned about Bosa as far as like long term, well, this season and how he's going to play out?
No, not at all.
Okay.
If there was,
he's a warrior. I mean, the dude clearly takes physical fitness and
yeah, he exercises.
He does
frequently.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and that's just the thing is so Deebo Samuel, great example. Last year, held in. He didn't hold out, but he was in the building, just not practicing. He talked about how that was a huge distraction for him and he came in out of shape and he was sluggish. And that's why he attributed his quote unquote awful year last year. That's what he attributed it to, was he was just distracted during the offseason. I don't imagine Nick Bosa is not working out. He's probably down in Florida, hanging out at his compound with his dad or whatever, and working out every day.
Family of former NFL players.
Just everybody down there, just the Bosa house. It's not even a kitchen. It's just a gym.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's where he's at. And honestly, that's probably why there's a lack of urgency from the 49ers perspective, because they're going, hey, you know what? We trust this guy to stay in shape. They leave him be during the offseason. He never shows up to any of the offseason program and he comes up day one ready to play. And I think that's a little bit why they've been so relaxed and just kind of waiting to see if he'll capitulate here, because they know, hey, you know what? If he does show up Wednesday, he's going to be ready to play by Sunday. He's going to be good to go.
That's crazy. I mean, it's wild. You talked about Deebo too. Like, I was sitting in my fantasy football draft this weekend and we came around, we were at the end of the draft, 12-man draft. We're the 11th pick. So we have that, like the end of the third round, beginning of the fourth, and Deebo's sitting there and we passed.
Wow.
Like he wasn't great last year at all, but, and the year before was incredible, but you start to wonder, like, was it a one-off and not sort of the norm? And the like resurgence or the development of Ayuk, the fact that Christian McCaffrey's there, it's going to take a bunch of snaps away from him, a bunch of touches. Like, at what point, like, does Deebo have to be who he was, not this last season, but the season before, for this 49ers team to really take that next step? And is he the guy that you start to circle and say, okay, you got to live up to this contract or we got to start looking a different way?
Yeah, that's what's tough. And that's why this year is so fascinating to me, because I don't think am I crazy if I think he's never going to match his 2021 production again?
Oh yeah.
1,400 receiving yards, 365 rushing yards, 14 total touchdowns.
Was 14-15 right there. Yeah.
1405, I think, was the exact number.
Wow.
But so almost 1,800 all-purpose yards or scrimmage yards and 14 total touchdowns. He's never going to do that again. But and that's not a knock on him. That's not a deep. But that was before Christian McCaffrey. Remember, the 2021 season was the year all their running backs got hurt.
Yep.
By week 2, they had 3 running backs, I think, out. So
that's the Kyle Shanahan way.
Yeah, man, that was the Brian Hill played snaps for the Niners that year. Jaquez Patrick, I think, played some snaps for the Niners that year. That was the Trey Sermon, got a concussion on his first NFL carry and he fumbled. It was just not a good year. And so the Deebo Samuel running back thing, the wide back thing, was just born out of necessity. They need a running back, and you know what? Deebo Samuel just happens to be the best runner on the team. So here, make it happen. But now they have Christian McCaffrey, who, like you just said, can do all that same stuff.
Yeah. And
they have a deeper stable of running backs this year. So what I'm looking for from Deebo this year, specifically while we're on the topic, is a version that looks like what we saw in 2021, but without that production. So maybe he's not getting as many touches, but he's as productive in his touches this year as he was in 21. The sample is just going to shrink down. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. I mean, what you want him to do is maximize his whenever he is on the field,
Yeah.
whenever he is actually touching the ball, you want him to maximize. And he's so explosive. I mean, I think that that's what you get when he does have the ball in his hands. You never know what's going to happen.
Right.
Like there's a possibility he's going to the house like every time.
Yeah.
And I think that that's exciting. But at the same time, he needs to be a better receiver, a more reliable receiver. He needs to be a guy who, when he does have, the end around, the sweep, whatever you want to call it, that he's maximizing each one of those, because it does feel like he's become sort of like a really expensive car you have in the garage that you don't drive at all.
Yeah.
It's almost like non-functional part of the time. And, when it does break down, it takes forever to get healthy and and it's expensive, and you're like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of get the feel that, he's the guy that I would circle and say, where do we go with this guy?
Yeah.
All right. We've talked Niners for quite some time here. When we come back, we'll switch gears. We'll switch gears.
Shitty hoops to talk about?
Yeah. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about Team USA. Maybe do a little Team USA versus Italy. And maybe even a little Team Canada. Team Canada got a big win this weekend.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Did you see Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's rap?
I did not.
Okay, I'll read it to you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you here in just a few minutes here on ESPN 1320 and the Insiders. This goes really quick. What's going on, Chatty House? How's everybody doing? Let me see. What do we got? Really is one of the strange things. Like finding a box score for some of these games is very difficult. I don't know why it's like top secret and they hide this stuff. Top Hat Tuesday. I'm not know who's gonna wear a top hat. No one's wearing a top hat. You're talking crazy. Versus Italy score. Oh, that's a good question. You should be asking Jesse that.
Jesse said no, absolutely not.
Really? The question would Jesse trade Waddle for Jonathan Taylor? I kind of like their stable of 49er running backs there. Can we just call them the 49ers East just to spite Jesse? Just to get under his skin?
Say that again.
Can we just call the Miami Dolphins the 49ers East because of all of their 49er running backs? Is Jesse going to come in here and punch me?
I loved Mike McDaniel on the Play Callers podcast. He was talking about the Dolphins' like offensive philosophy. And he's like, we have a good quarterback and we have fast as S receivers. So I love that.
That does work. I like all of their
Me too, man.
Receivers.
Me too.
I don't think I trust Tua, but
I do a little video show for USA Today.
Okay.
And no big deal. And I picked this year. So last year I picked the Chiefs to beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I picked that before the season. No big deal. And not to brag. And this year I actually picked the Dolphins to go to the Super Bowl. against the Eagles.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know about
I think
that.
Jalen Hurts is going to win the MVP too. I'm just all in on the Eagles hype train.
All right.
Yeah. 20 seconds, by the way.
Welcome back in. Listening to the Insiders on ESPN 1320. James Ham, Kyle Madsen. Kyle, we've talked Nick Bosa for about an hour. It's a lot of Nick Bosa talk, 45 minutes. Team USA, they were looking a little shaky in their last outing, but this morning against Italy, you were up early. You were here at the station early watching Team USA versus Italy. They had no problems running through Italy.
It genuinely looked like they took that loss to Lithuania personally.
Okay.
And they just played a really just sound basketball game. And it was very clear early on that Italy was just kind of overmatched. And if they weren't going to shoot 86% from three, they were toast. And it was I think a 22-point game at halftime. And then it wasn't even one of those ones where it was like, oh, hang on, they're hanging in there. They just got steamrolled.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. No. I'll ask you this though. You compare Lithuania versus Italy. Is it just possible that Team USA is going to struggle with the big teams, the big physical teams? Because I mean, Italy doesn't have the same type of player that Lithuania is running out there. And again, Lithuania is playing without Domantas Sabonis, who decided not to play during this offseason.
Are you happy about that?
Yeah, I think so. Like I want him to go and find success and play in the Olympics and all that stuff.
Sure.
I think that's really super important.
Mm-hmm.
And I always like European basketball, the buildup. I like these off-season tournaments because I do think that it gets your players ready to roll. It gets them with a different mindset leading into the season, as long as they don't have injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And like we've seen that in the past, I think Bogdan Bogdanovic had an injury playing for Serbia when he was here in Sacramento. But if I'm looking at a player like Sabonis, he's reached like a certain point in his career where his focus needs to be right now on building this winner here in Sacramento. It needs to be taking that next step and being fresh and ready and all that stuff. So I think it's great. The Kings have had a bunch of offseason things where they're together as a team, or at least most of the group is together. And in order to take that next step, you need Sabonis to be that guy. And in order for him to be that guy, number one, the thumb has to be perfect. And they decided not to have off-season thumb surgery with him. He has an avulsion fracture in his right hand, in his right thumb. And so the fact that he decided not to go that route means he needs to rest and he needs to ice and he needs to do his treatments with the training staff and everything else. And I think it was the right call. Now, again, he's going to play in the Olympics. If he's healthy, he's playing in the Olympics.
Yeah, that's a much bigger deal.
Yeah, it's something that like the Kings understand and they will support. But I think that Lithuania team, man, they could be really, really good.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think I'm not anti playing in FIBA. Like I don't sit there and go, what is Luka doing? Why? I'm not on that level.
Well, he didn't really have to play the last 40 games of the season. Just saying.
No, it's a fair point. It's a fair point.
Yeah.
No, so I'm not going to begrudge anybody, but yeah, I'm with you. Get healthy, man. There's stuff to focus on.
Okay, so
in Sacramento,
when we're looking at Team USA, is there anything that stood out? I mean, like Mikal Bridges was really good. Tyrese Haliburton again continues to be sort of the change of pace guy that switches everything up for that team.
He is so good, man.
He is good.
He's so good.
I told Ed he was a dream to cover. I'll keep saying that. Like he's one of the easiest guys to cover of all time. He wore his emotions on his sleeve, very articulate, was able not just be articulate, but to articulate what was happening
Mhm.
and the feelings that were happening. And, I think one time he was asked, if this, like, how bad was this loss or something, he's like, or if this was the worst loss of his career. And he's like, man, we lost by like 48 last year. No, this wasn't the worst. But like, you knew when he came out with his hoodie pulled up over his face, that it was going to be like a dark, introverted Tyrese Haliburton, like trying to like reach deep and be like extra like emotional. And watching him perform on like this huge stage, first of all, I think he plays perfect into this type of basketball. I think it is right for like Team USA basketball. Like, I even think if we were to compare him and Fox, like who would be better on Team USA, it's probably still a toss up because, Fox will probably play more of a role like Jalen Brunson.
Yes.
Where Haliburton's always going to be the setup guy. But I really do think that like it's a joy to watch him play. And every time that you watch him play, you think the same thing. There's an exuberance to him. He's got a spring in his step. Everything he does is awkward and fun. And then sometimes he shows up like these flashy things that you're like, ooh, like I didn't see that coming. But I think like he's going to be one of the great true point guards in this league for another decade.
I know he's good. Like, I am very familiar with that. I was big on him in the draft.
Yep.
The Warriors had the second pick that year. I was like, hey, if you want to take this guy second, because one of the draft experts we talked to, he said, I went, why isn't Tyrese Haliburton getting more love? And the draft expert said, well, he just doesn't look for his own shot enough. Like, if that's the problem with a player, if he's good at everything, he just doesn't look for his shot enough, I'm in. Like, you can fix that. I'm all in. So I'm totally aware of how good he is. I watched him with the Kings. Pacers, not a great league pass team, but I'd tune in here and there. I'm always surprised at how good he is when I watch him. Like, he always does something new that's like, man, what? I think I just know he's good and I underrate him a little bit.
So watching that draft unfold, and of course that's during like the pandemic stuff, right? So we had, that's the year, I think I wrote 22 mock drafts for NBC Sports. And we just kept changing things and moving things around. I kept saying with Tyrese Haliburton though, like super toolsy. Like he's basically a 5-tool player. Well, he's not a 5-tool player. He's a 4-tool player.
What tool is he missing?
He does not play defense. He's not a defensive minded player. So he does lack that. He's a good steal guy, but he doesn't.
Not a great point of attack defender.
Yeah, he's not a great point of attack defender. And in order for him to work, you actually need a Miles Turner. You need all of those like athletic, super crazy guys. You need a JaVale McGee in order to make him work. So to me, that makes sense. But the problem that I kept saying was it all has to translate. Because you didn't know he wasn't this type of setup man at the college level. He was a really good passer,
right?
But his assist numbers weren't extreme,
right?
And he was a really good rebounder, but you knew the rebounding numbers wouldn't translate because he's so light, slight of frame that it's going to be difficult for him to go mix with the trees at the NBA level. But overall, his shot was funky. His release was weird. It took a long time to get up. Like, he really reminded me of Kevin Martin. Like, all of his offensive weapons.
Interesting.
Except for Kevin Martin wasn't a passer at all. But but all of the shot, the release, the way he gets there, all of it looked a lot like Kevin Martin on the offensive end. But you just didn't know if it would translate, especially to, the modern NBA. And the other thing is, you weren't really putting him as a point guard coming into the draft. He was just a guard.
Right.
He was a combo guard. He probably a 2 guard. He's 6'5". You're okay with him at the 2. And then you get him in Sacramento. It's just like, oh my gosh, he's so much better.
Yes.
And even like De'Aaron Fox kept saying, he's so much better than I was as a rookie. So much better.
Yeah.
And so I think it was really interesting the way that, they just really on the court never fully meshed while they did off the court. I think we'll get into more discussion on this because it goes to like who's the player that steps into a role and you just like instantly see that he's fit to play.
Yeah.
And whether, him or Fox will be a better player down the road, whether this was like the most disastrous trade of all time for the Sacramento Kings, there's a lot to discuss there. And it's just really hard it's a nuanced discussion because, where the Kings are today versus where the Pacers are.
Yeah.
Like there's a huge contrast in where these two teams are heading right now.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think again, it's going to be something that we have to delve into. Let's take a break. Let's come back. We'll talk. Maybe we'll break this discussion down as like whether or not the Kings would look the same right now if things had changed, if things were different, if the trade was different, and if it included different players.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. I have something I want to run by you, but I want to save it. I want to save it for
After
the next segment.
After the jump.
Yeah. Don't touch that dial.
Blake Harrison, David Stockton is on the Ignite. We're working on it.
Still getting used to the nuances.
Yeah, actually, there's some good points here, like in the chatty house. I'm gonna use the cursor. I mean the mouse. Let me see. This one right here, like for as much as Buddy Hield is a nice item for Tyrese Haliburton to have, because what Buddy Hield does is he spaces the floor so Ty can be in the pick and roll with all these big guys like nonstop. So that's great. But also those two defensively together is a horrible mess. And that's going to be something that they need to fix, or, Buddy won't be there. I think Buddy's entering the final year of his contract. Stockton Kings legend David Stockton is on the Ignite team now. I could tell a story about David Stockton, but I won't. I would say though that
any good Kyle Guy stories?
I don't really have. Oh, maybe. Yes. So I came up. We had Lance Woods working media day.
The great Lance Woods, yeah.
Yeah, and it was during the season where they decided to make it very, very specific. Like everyone had to be remeasured, right? And so it was that year where they needed to make sure they had exact height and weight without shoes and all that stuff. So
that's 1 minute.
We got 1 minute. Okay. So I'll be quick with my off the cuff story here. So Lance, I brought a tape measure and a step stool, and Lance was measuring players.
Hilarious.
Kyle Guy steps up, and Lance pulls the tape measure up and goes 5'3". Kyle Guy was not happy. He's like, come on, man. He's like, I didn't know, are you the shortest player in the, like, he kept going with it.
Oh my God.
Because some of the tall guys, it was like, man, are you 12 foot tall? And Lance is trying to reach.
Right.
Up. Yeah. So it was good stuff.
Oh,
that none of that ever saw the light of day.
That's a bummer.
It's hiding somewhere in a vault.
Here we go.
Kyle, we've made the turn. We've made the turn.
We did it.
1 hour in the books. The Insiders are our debut show, our official debut show. Kyle, how are you feeling? You holding up?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Well, we got plenty of people in here, so if this is good. This is fun. When we went to the break, we were discussing something very specific. Tyrese Haliburton is playing exceptionally well for Team USA.
Mm-hmm.
He just put up 18 points in the game this morning in their win over Italy. Really, really good stuff. And I think there's always going to be a tie with Sacramento. And, it doesn't matter how far we get away from it. Every time Tyrese Haliburton is asked about it, it's a topic of discussion.
Mhm.
But it's something that I think, could the Kings be who they are today and who they were this last season if the trade never went down, if there was a different player involved in the trade,
Mhm.
if it was Domantas Sabonis and Tyrese Haliburton instead of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis?
That's the one that interests me the most.
Is it?
Yeah, because I don't want to disparage Tyrese Haliburton by saying that I don't think the Kings would be as good. I think they'd still be good. I think they still would have been a playoff team last year, but they'd be so different because De'Aaron is just a little bit different. Like if that, and I hate saying that because I want to quantify it, but I can't.
Okay, so you say this is the one thing that I'll say. The Sacramento Kings weren't a playoff team for 16 years.
Right.
So to say that they could have made the playoffs last year, like without the trade, with the trade being different, with it being De'Aaron Fox that went to Indiana instead of Tyrese Haliburton, I'll just say, like, we don't know that. And there's no way for us to ever know that.
Sure.
And
I personally think they would have.
the previous 16, yes, you can think like that could be like a discussion for sure. But like the way that I look at it is that like until they actually did it, I can't ever give them credit for something that they couldn't figure out how to accomplish.
Okay.
And so like I totally get it. And I'm gonna go like very specific. De'Aaron Fox was the absolute perfect player for Domantas Sabonis.
Yes.
Domantas Sabonis was the absolute perfect player for De'Aaron Fox.
Mhm.
And then the other moves that they made to surround those guys with shooting, was like the perfect formula. Like I always think of it like almost like The Office, Kevin's secret chili, like his family recipe. And like you got to have all of these things that you're throwing into a good chili, right?
Yeah.
And one weird thing can mess the whole thing up.
Yeah.
But as long as everything's blending together right, and you let it simmer and you let it keep going, is usually it just gets better and better. And I think that's why so many people are so excited, because everyone knows like a good pot of chili, a good spaghetti, it's always better the second day, And so this team here, you kept it together. And you have this expectation that it's going to be better in year 2 because you've let it simmer.
A sports analogy with leftovers is like, dude, that is so right up my alley.
You're right there.
I'm in there. I am in lockstep with you right now. No, the thing is that I think the thing for me that's tough because like I said, I really like Tyrese Haliburton as a player and I believe in him a lot and I get why the Pacers want to build around him. But the jump De'Aaron made last year was a jump that not every player makes and not one that I'm confident Tyrese Haliburton is going to make, because when they made that trade, I don't know all the logistics of what was on the table, what was not on the table, but De'Aaron at the time was not a player I thought could be a 1 on a title team. I was like, that's a very good player. He's an excellent player. But can he be that one? I'm not super sure. And then he made this leap last year. And he became a player who I'm of the mind that if he doesn't hurt his finger against Golden State, I think they win that series. Like he was just he knocked him down that little bit and took him out of the level that he was playing at in the first, was it 4 games? He got hurt in game 4.
Yeah. He got hurt at the end of game. Yes. I believe the end of game 4. No.
Game 5.
Yes. The end of game 5.
Those last couple games, he just he couldn't quite hit the gas to that full level that they needed him to get.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect him to make that. I did not believe he was going to do that. And then he did. And that changed my entire thought process on that deal for Sacramento.
Okay. So you bring up something that I think I want to draw out, because I say this all the time. And I think people like they may not understand what I'm saying. De'Aaron Fox 2 years ago put up 25 points and 7 assists. Like he was equally good, maybe even better statistically than he was this last season. Players can get better without statistical improvement. And it's something that I think like this team can get better. Kevin Huerter can get better. Malik Monk can get better.
Yes.
Davion Mitchell can get better. All of these players can get better without taking a statistical leap. And I would even say that if you look at Tyrese Haliburton's leap statistically, it's like tremendous. Like he goes to like he leads the league in assists, or he's right there with the leaders in assists. You know, he becomes like a 20 and 10 guy almost, right? And I would say that's fine, but he's not to the point yet where his statistical leaps actually mean that your team is getting better. And I think that that's where like there's a big distinction here between you know, where the Kings are today because of that trade and like and what Tyrese Haliburton could have done, and would his numbers ever look the same in Sacramento type deal. But also like in the leap that De'Aaron Fox took as a leader, as a closer, as a special, you know, player that goes from not an all-star to a third team all NBA player. And when you're a third team all NBA player,
you're one of the best 15 guys in the league.
You're one of the best 15 guys in the league. And he finished like 12th in the balloting. Like that's where he was considered like the 12th best player. Now, we won't see him in the top 30 in any of these rankings coming into the season, which is which is just a joke.
Sure.
But it doesn't change the fact that he went from a statistical, like a really good statistical player to a great player with one transaction.
Yeah.
And I don't know that was going to happen here for him any other way. And,
I agree.
And that's something that I would continuously point out. Like he could take a leap, but without Sabonis here, they just end up being a great duo together. Even if they don't even look like on paper that they would mesh, they do.
Right.
And I think that's the beauty of basketball. You have no idea. And just like we looked at Tyrese Haliburton and De'Aaron Fox, and you kept waiting for like this moment to happen where they look good together. It never happened.
It's so hard to do. It's so hard to have because Tyrese Haliburton, if you're playing him off the ball, you're diminishing one of his greatest skills, which is setting up his teammates.
His greatest skill.
Yeah. And if you're putting De'Aaron Fox off the ball, you're taking away his greatest skill, which is just everything he does with the ball in his hands, whether it's setting people up or getting to the rack or whatever it is. Like you can't, it was never going to work. They're two really good players that were never going to mesh. At least I don't think. It might have worked like okay, but you were never going to see either of them maximize themselves. And when I talk about the leap De'Aaron Fox made, I really think to be a one on a title team, you have to be a guy that's like, hey, give him the ball in a big spot and he's going to make a play. Whether it's making a shot or making a pass or whatever it is, you feel good about De'Aaron Fox with the ball in his hands with 10 seconds left in a 1-point game. I don't know if Tyrese Haliburton will ever be that guy for a team where it's like, you know what? Hey, down 6 with 2 minutes left. This guy just needs to take over. I don't know if he's ever going to get there. And maybe I could be wrong. I was wrong about De'Aaron being that guy. So maybe I'm wrong about Tyrese too, but
I think Ty can get there. I mean, he averaged like last season, 20.7 and 10.4 points per game. I think Ty can get there, but De'Aaron's already there.
Yeah.
But I also don't think De'Aaron would have got there without the trade.
I agree with you.
And not only that, but I think De'Aaron would have had to go somewhere else to go try to find it. And like, I think
he was going to be a good stats, bad team guy.
Yeah. And now he's not. Right. Now he's good stats, good team.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, wait, it can work that way. Like he's not just like roaming the earth, putting up 20 points on a loser. That's not what he's doing. He's
not Monte Ellis.
Yeah. Or Lamont Murray, who just went from one team to another, scoring 20 a game. And like, you know, like people don't realize like Antoine Carr gets traded to the Kings and he puts up like 18.6.
Yeah.
You know, like Rodney McRae had never been like this like incredible scorer. He averages 20 a game. Wayman Tisdale, the great Wayman Tisdale, Sacramento lore, just God rest his soul, just an incredible human being. He was a bust.
Yeah.
And he finds his way to Sacramento. Somebody scores 20, even on a bad team.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way that you started to feel like, are we going to get to that point with Fox? And I was hoping we'd avoid that, like for his own sake.
Yeah.
And it got dark. Like the year before, it got dark. Like he didn't look like himself because of the pairing with Haliburton. You were waiting for it to work. And then you slowly, by the end of that season, before the trade, started to go, I don't know that this thing can actually function.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but I think you maximize everybody. You maximize bonus in the trade, clearly. You give Ty a spot where he goes and he plays with, like nothing but the alley-oop guy, the lob threat, and he's so good in that situation. And then you give Fox like just a open court to break everybody down and attack the rim and put pressure on the defense in a different way. So yeah, it's definitely like the way it worked out is brilliant.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you would have ever thought that when you threw all the things in the pot, but it ends up being brilliant.
Yeah, I was very against the trade when it happened. It was definitely like, what in the world, or like, how is this going to work out? And then, oh, they had a direction. Look at that.
I was stunned, but I didn't believe that it was a wrong trade. Like when it happened, because I had conversations 2 days earlier, and they were not going to do it. They were going to try to work out something with De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Haliburton. They thought that if they gave it like another year, that they would be able to figure it out. And then the right trade popped up. And I think the real problem was the wrong trade was always out there. And then the right trade. So the wrong trade was likely Ben Simmons. The right trade was Sabonis, but he wasn't available. Now he's available. You make the deal.
Yeah.
And Larry Bird, like, so upset with his Indiana Pacers. He never thought that they should ever trade Domantas Sabonis.
Well, I mean, they might have won more games over the last year or two, maybe, but they're not any closer to a title than they would have been. And now you have a young point guard to build around.
No, I totally agree.
That's I like we said this on Friday. Very rare case where both teams are like, yeah, good trade.
Yeah, very rare. Yeah. All right, we're gonna take a break. We'll be back in just a few minutes. When we do, we're gonna switch gears again. We're gonna find something else to talk about. I'm not even gonna tease. We're just gonna find some other things to talk about. I'm not.
We have a full rundown. We're gonna dig through it, and we're gonna try and mine a topic.
That's right. We'll figure something out here coming out of the break. You are listening to ESPN 1320 and the Insiders. Thank you for joining us. Hello, everyone. I'm not good at managing the chatty house during the actual show, only during the break. So
we'll get there.
Yeah. One of the biggest things is that, like, there isn't room over here. Like, my spot on the other side of the room has all kinds of space, but here I have like a keyboard, and then there's two mice. There are mice everywhere.
No, I think it's mouses, right? Isn't it? I think the computer. I think the computer mouse is mouses.
Yeah, I think so too. But there's two of them, and in order for me to get to the chatty house one, I have to move my laptop, which is like a whole nother situation. So we still don't have anything on the Nick Bosa situation, of course.
Natch.
It'll happen just as we leave.
What's your in and out order?
I'm not a huge in and out guy. I do like.
Show's over, everybody. We had a good run.
I like a double, no onions, add mustard.
Okay, I rock with it.
But I don't like their French fries.
That's fair. I get it. I don't stand their fries. I like them, but I don't begrudge if somebody's out on the just like potato, oil, gone. I get it.
They're like a little styrofoamy.
That's fair.
But everything else is good. And I think the best part about In-N-Out is that it's so clean.
Yeah.
So
here's my other thing with In-N-Out. One, you're out of there for like $10, which I'm like, yeah. And two, I've never had an In-N-Out experience where I've been like, that wasn't a good trip. Yeah. It's always good. It's not elite. It's not great to me, but it's always good. And it's going to cost me $10. I'm not watching Ahsoka yet. Sorry, guys.
I'm not either.
Not a banana pepper guy. Yeah, no.
Oh, see, I do like the banana peppers.
I just recently started getting into pickles on my In-N-Out burger.
Oh.
I rock with this.
We've been making our own pickles
Oh,
this year with fermenting.
ham pickles.
I have a garden, and for whatever reason,
You are a fascinating person. You're just like, yeah, I have a boat. I have a garden.
So I do garden. I love
15 seconds.
All right. But I see, David, I don't hunt. Like, whatever.
All right.
Welcome back to the Insiders. I'm James Ham. Joining me, Kyle Madsen. This is our opening show. We're super excited. We are having a great time. We're trudging through. We're figuring things out.
We're having a great time trudging through.
Yeah, we're dipping. We're dodging. We're figuring it all out. The first thing coming out of this break, I want to shout out my good friend Gary Gerald, who is celebrating his 62nd wedding anniversary with Miss Marlene. And Gary Gerald is one of the most amazing people you'll ever run into. I hope other people out there get an opportunity to meet Gary and his lovely bride. But 62 years of marriage.
That's incredible.
Do you have a shot at that, Kyle?
Do I what?
You have a shot at 62 years.
Bro, I can't even guarantee anybody in the world will be alive on Sunday.
Kyle goes dark.
No, yes. Especially now that I'm out of the house.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, you got to do the math. Can you make it 62 years?
62 years. All right. So we did one this year, one down. Next March will be 2. So 2024 will be 2 years. So 2022 is 62 years. It's
So you got to do another
84?
60.
Oh man, that puts me. Oh, no chance, coach. You need me to get north of 90?
Oh,
No chance.
I think I can get there.
You look great you're either 30 or 70.
I'm not telling anybody how old I am, but I do have a 20-year-old, and I haven't married.
That was shocking to me when I learned that.
24 years I've been married, and so I do have a shot. I got a shot at it.
You definitely do. You're doing great.
Yeah.
I'm not doing as well. If you need me to get north of 90, right? 84, 80, 62 years would be 2084. Yeah, God, that's 94 years.
Oh, yeah. That's a tough one, Kyle.
No chance.
Well, you both got to make it too. I mean, that's tough.
Dang, this is dark.
It is dark. But 60.
Moving on.
I think I can make 60. We'll see. Like the back.
Where are you at now?
The back says we're at 24 years. This year, like in July, we'll have our celebrate our 25th.
Man, nice.
And I'm not telling you how old I am. I just, it's the mystery of how
It's one of my favorite things.
How old James is.
It's literally not, and then we can not talk about this anymore. But when we worked at NBC together, we worked at NBC at the same time. I don't think we ever worked together. I might have PA'd a show that you were on, but okay. I don't think we ever like worked together. And I just always operated under the assumption that we were roughly in the same, you were definitely older than me, but like a little bit.
Yeah.
No. Not you have a 20-year-old.
Yes.
That
I have
shocked me.
A sophomore in college. Yes. A sophomore in college. Yes.
Wild.
And my youngest is 16, and he has a learner's permit. Yeah.
Man.
It's wild. No, it goes by fast, Kyle. It does go by fast.
That's what I've heard.
We decided not to have a topic for this segment of the show. No.
In and out,
and celebrating 62 years of marriage for Gary Gerald and Miss Marlene. We did have some other. Chris Mortensen is hanging it up. That after he announced today that after the draft, he had made the decision to walk away. Man, talk about a legend.
Yeah, Mort's been covering the NFL for as long as
33 years.
Literally as long as I've been alive.
Yeah.
I don't remember the NFL without Chris Mortensen in it.
I do, Kyle.
That's fair enough. No, it's such a fascinating look at. So I'm a media dork. I majored in mass communication studies at Sac State. So I love like the meta media stuff. The fact that Chris Mortensen, this legend of NFL media, just quiet retires after the draft and then takes to Twitter to be like, oh yeah, by the way,
I quit.
I'm going to be here talking ball. But I'm out. Like, that's amazing to me that it can go down that way. Like, he's the kind of guy that you have a full sports center around. Like, you dedicate a day to Chris Mortensen is hanging him up.
No, I agree.
He's on Twitter. Like,
he's had health problems over the
Right.
last, handful of years.
Mhm.
And so I know that that's something that stands out, but overall, like, it's just stunning. It's jarring. And, we've lost some of the, just not lost as in they're gone,
Mhm.
that they've passed, but just the game, the sports world has lost so many greats over the last few years that have stepped away or, the cutbacks and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's difficult to watch, but he was a guy that you thought he might just keep going.
Yeah.
Might just keep doing this forever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a little bit like Woj is how I saw it. Woj retweeted him. And I expect Woj and Amick and I mean, Shams is like the young buck. He's going to keep going forever. Then again, Shams could be like me and just be way older than we think.
No, Shams is like 28.
Yeah, he's not old.
No,
he's
not at
very
all.
young. He's very young. But yeah, it's like the greats. Just really, really interesting to watch and see who fills that void. Because
Yeah.
I mean, it's been such a huge thing that we've seen over the last decades.
Yeah.
Is like these guys that are the pinnacle of that business.
Mhm.
Have you met all these guys? Have you met Chris Mortensen?
No, I had one. I was my one big NFL experience outside of the, Niners beat writers. I know them, guys like Mike Silver, know those guys.
Yeah.
But I was working as what's called a runner for NFL Network in 2011 NFL season. And when you're a runner, what you do is whatever you're told to do.
Mhm.
I show up in the truck. I go, I'm here. I'm signed in. Tell me to do something. And you go do that thing. And then you come back and somebody goes, go do this now. It stinks, but whatever. I was trying to get a foot in the door. And I have to take ice to the green room underneath Candlestick Park, right? And I go down there. It's this makeshift green room. It's just like a backdrop for pictures, but 4 of them in a square. And in there, it's like Michael Irvin and Steve Mariucci, and I think Rich Eisen might have been in there. Just a bunch of legends who for NFL Network. And I walk in and I've got this bag of ice and Steve Mariucci standing there. And I called him coach because I'm an idiot. And I go, hey coach, where do you want this ice? And he goes, I guess just right there. And he points to this thing. So I go to remove the basket that I was going to pour this ice in. And in doing so, forgot the ice was open and just slung it over my arm and dumped out all of the ice all over the floor.
Oh no.
All conversation in the room stops. And everyone is staring at me on my hands and knees, scraping the ice back toward me to scoop it up and put it in the bucket. Silence for, to me, it felt like 9 hours. It was probably 4 or 5 seconds. And then right back into their conversations. I existed in their minds as guy on hands and knees picking up ice. And then I was out of their exit. I was I walked into this room starstruck by everybody in there. And I was guy on ground picking up ice.
I think my favorite thing about working at NBC, and it's weird we're on this discussion, but was the green room. Because, watching a game with Jerry Reynolds and Gary St. Jean and having, a Warriors game on one screen and a Kings game on another. But Gary St. Jean is super intense.
He is the definition of boisterous.
He is yelling at the screen the whole time. He's red in the face. He's hilarious. They're laughing. But I have this incredible story. Me and Bobby Jackson were sitting in the green room waiting to do, I don't think it was halftime. I think we were waiting to do pregame.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Romanowski walks in, and talk about an intense dude. So he comes in, Bobby and I are sitting there, and the old green room at NBC, there's this huge mirror, and he comes in and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And we're like, "Hey, what's going on?" It's Bill Romanowski.
Don't make eye contact.
Yeah, exactly. Don't make eye contact. That was my thought. He gets up in front of the mirror and he's looking in the mirror directly, and me and Bobby are right behind him. That dude grabs a can of hairspray, and it is the most intense hairspraying I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, if you can imagine Bill Romanowski with a can of hairspray and like,
I can.
it was so intense. The whole can is gone. He throws it in the trash, and then he's out.
No words.
Nothing else.
Gone.
He leaves, and me and Bobby Jackson look at each other. The whole room is filled with hairspray. Like we're covered in like Aquanet. Like the whole room is nothing but hairspray. If someone lit a match, we would have exploded completely. And I just look like, that was intense. Me and Bobby are laughing. Like, what just happened? Like, I've never seen anything like it before. And like that dude, I don't want to know what he's like, like changing a diaper or like making a smoothie in the morning. I
think you saw it with the hairspraying. I imagine he attacks everything with that level of verve.
I think he does.
Yeah.
He does attack life that way. He is Bill Romanowski.
Quick thing before we get out of here. Speaking of working at NBC, nobody better than Doug Christie.
Oh, yeah.
Who didn't go to the green room. He sat in the newsroom with everybody else and just talked hoop through the whole game.
And I drove him there every game.
I didn't know that, but shout out to you.
Yeah.
I had a great time.
We're commuting.
Love Doug.
Partners. We were commuting partners
That's
for
great.
3 years. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. We'll have more after the break. You are listening to The Insiders on ESPN 1320. Thanks for sticking with us on this debut show. How we doing, everybody? If you're in the chat and you don't mind, give us a thumbs up. Me and Doug used to car cast. That's where the original car casting came from. So I would give Doug a microphone, and then I would put a lav mic on myself while I drove, and then we would drive down the freeway, and I would narrate like where we were. Like you could hear the thump 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 of the Bay Bridge, and I would explain that, or like we're passing Richmond, like Jerry Reynolds and I did that as well. And then we would do our live read for Wendy's commercials because we would stop at Wendy's.
Incredible.
And Jerry would get his bowl of chili, and then Jerry likes.
If you told me to guess Jerry Reynolds' Chili's or Wendy's order, I would have nailed it.
Yeah,
I would have been like, he's a chili from Wendy's guy.
Yeah. And the other thing, so Doug, we never stopped because Doug won't do fast food at all.
Of course. Have you seen the guy?
No, he won't even consider it.
Yeah.
And then I had a situation with Doug because he doesn't want to. Well, it's not that he doesn't want to stop. He just doesn't eat anything. Right. So we're going, well, I had to go pee, and we're driving down the road, and I'm like, okay, should we stop? We get all the way to his house. I'm like, all right, man, I can't make it because I still have another 45 minutes to get home.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I gotta use your restroom. He's like, all right. So I walk into Doug's house, and he yells up to Jackie, Ham's here. And Jackie yells back, hey, Ham. And that was it.
That's the interaction.
I've met Jackie multiple times.
Yeah.
Like, Jackie's awesome.
Yeah.
She's definitely different than like your basketball wives stuff. But
sure.
Yeah. But like going
Incredible.
in Doug Christie's house, like, this is weird. Yeah. That and Jerry's a get out of the car guy. So when you
not
stop,
a drive-through guy?
No. So when you stop, it's like a 20-minute. We go in.
That tracks.
We order our food.
That's just
we
sit.
Like we hang out. We have conversations. Yeah, those were good times.
He is as Midwestern as they come.
Yeah,
and I mean that in the best way.
Oh yeah. I mean, well,
He is-
that and when he curses, everyone's like, "What?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, all the time. Yeah.
Like, this is not new.
This is yeah. What are we gonna talk about coming out of the break here, Kyle?
You want to do what ifs? Or we have a what if, but it's Nick Bosa. You want to do Tuesday overreactions?
Yeah, let's do Tuesday. We'll just reset the Bosa stuff.
Okay. I'll start with that, and then we can do some other ones.
Okay.
Great.
You want to take us coming out of the break?
Sure.
All right.
I'm going to try and mix it up. I'm going to include a little baseball in here, everybody. Get fired up.
Uh-oh. I love it. What? Travis Kelce got hurt?
What?
Or someone just
Oh, I need you to research that. And we were talking about it. All right, here we go. And welcome back into the Insiders. Kyle Madsen, James Ham. I'm taking this one because we're going to do Tuesday overreaction. So typically during the NFL season, what we'll do is we'll do this on Mondays. We'll take a look at games around. We'll do the Raiders, obviously, on your home of the Raiders. We'll take the Niners, and then we'll find, a couple of big stories from the week, and we are going to overreact to them. Or I will make a statement, and you tell me whether that thing is an overreaction, then we'll discuss it.
Okay,
that
that
make
sounds good
sense?
to me. The only rule is that when you do this, you have to lean into the mic and say, Tuesday overreactions.
Oh, and we're going to have a little rejoiner for it. It's going to be great.
Okay.
Tuesday overreaction
See, I'm teaching Kyle.
on the Insiders.
Yep.
James
there it is.
Ham, Kyle Madsen. Okay, so Tuesday, soon to be Monday, overreactions. We're starting right here. The 49ers have botched the Nick Bosa situation.
Erroneous.
Overreaction?
Overreaction.
How so?
This is the NFL. This is what happens.
Is it?
This is contract negotiations 101. This is how this always happens. I mean, yes, it was.
It doesn't.
It was their priority. It was how it was. This is not how it's supposed to act. This is how it's happened. Like, for how many years have there been holdouts until the last minute? And you're like, is it going to get done? Will it not get done? I feel like we're on The Bachelor. Will she say yes? Will he ask? It's always the same.
The thing is, they don't always come down to the Tuesday before the regular season starts. Like, that is not typical. And that's the thing. That's, to me, where, if you want to say, I don't think the 49ers have botched it quite yet. But if he's not on the field week 1, that to me is on the front office.
Well, yeah, but like, what power does Bosa have if he doesn't sit out? Like, that's where you gain the powers to say, you think I'm bluffing? No, I'm not bluffing. I'm in.
Yeah, so just pay him.
Well,
They shouldn't need to get rolled by the Pittsburgh Steelers to go, okay, fine, we'll pay Nick Bosa.
But do you expect them to get rolled?
Yeah, I think they're going to lose even if Nick Bosa plays. I think they're going to go 3-1 in their first 4. I think they're going to lose to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
That's just I think Pittsburgh's going to be pretty good this year. Mike Tomlin is an excellent coach. 10 a.m. start for the Niners. Pittsburgh's a tough place to play. I think the Steelers, I think they're going to win anyways. So, yeah.
All right. Okay.
But you shouldn't, if the Niners are really looking at this, like, you know what, fine, we're going to let them sit out. And we're going to show them that we can win without. No. Don't love that. Don't love that idea.
I don't think that that's where we're at. I think what it is the number has to be right. The conversation has to be right. The negotiation has to be right for everyone involved. And then you move forward. Like, no one's going to feel good coming out of this.
Yeah.
Except for Nick Bosa, who's going to have like a really, really.
My man's going to have 30+ million reasons to feel good about it.
He might need a 4th bank account just as an overflow. Just keep that bank account's full. We need to go to a different bank account to fill that one up. Yeah.
My goal is to be so rich that I open an offshore bank account.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's a life goal.
All right.
So I got into radio.
That's a good life goal. It's not to get to 62 years of marriage. It's to have a off.
Well, if I'm so rich that I have an offshore bank account, I'm making it to 62 years, buddy.
Okay.
You best believe that. Team USA, after throttling Italy this morning, 5:45 a.m. tip-off on the West Coast.
Horrible.
Team USA is going to win the gold medal at the FIBA World Cup.
Ooh, I'm not I'm not 100% on this one.
Oh,
I think that they've got a really good shot,
hmm
but I don't so much buy that Lithuania was a wake-up call as much as I think that Italy is nowhere as good as
Yeah.
Lithuania.
Yeah.
And I think Canada is going to be tough.
Mhm.
Our guy Jordi Fernandez was able to knock off Spain on Sunday and get past and get to the quarters
hmm
and qualify for the Olympics. Canada is back in the Olympics. Good for Canada. But I think they're going to be tough, man. They're super fun to watch.
Yeah.
And then like Team USA has to play well. Like you can't just
Mhm.
walk in and think you're going to win. And I kind of feel like that's the way Team USA approaches so many of these battles like over the years. And I just don't think like the league is catching up. The world is catching up to you. So, yeah.
Well, the world is caught up to the point that Team USA can't roll out. What would you call this? A B minus team?
Yes.
Like a B minus. I don't want to say a C plus team, but I think it's like a B minus team.
Yeah.
They can't just do that and go win every tournament now.
No, I fully agree with you. This is like a B minus team. So, according to Adam Schefter, Chiefs head coach Andy Reid told reporters that Travis Kelce hyperextended his knee at practice today, and his status for Thursday night's opener versus the Lions is uncertain. I think the biggest thing that stands out in that entire tweet, Kyle, what are the Lions doing on opening night?
Dude, they were the darlings of the NFL at the end of last year. Remember, they played the Packers and they beat the Packers to knock them out of the playoffs. And oh my gosh, what's his name? Is their running back? He now plays for the Saints.
Oh, Jamal Williams.
Jamal Williams, thank you.
Was
like crying. He's like,
I drafted him.
It's all dogs around this. That was him. They were the darlings and they scored a ton of points. And Dan Campbell's biting kneecaps and shotgunning venti coffees.
But they weren't very good.
They were good enough.
They were okay. I don't know.
Didn't they go like 7-2 to end the year?
Maybe.
I think they did.
Yeah, but they didn't make any noise. Like if I'm looking opening night, I want to highlight the best of the best. Like I want a Super Bowl rematch. I want, I don't know. Like I want Niners, Eagles. I think
it's going to be a super entertaining game.
Okay.
I really do. And I think the league looked and went, hey, a lot of points here. There's gonna be a lot of points scored in this one.
Yeah, maybe like the over's like 88. You're like,
I'm banging the over.
Yeah, I am taking the over right there. Yeah, I mean, I guess, but again, I just find it strange that's not the we have to put up with the Lions on Thanksgiving for the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know opening night. To me, it seems.
I think you're gonna be surprised. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised by Jared Goff and company.
I hope so. I mean, they got rid of all those running backs they had last year.
Yeah.
They got rid of Jamal. They got rid of DeAndre Swift. Like they're starting fresh. They brought in Montgomery and then they drafted, I can't remember.
Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, and Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah. Sam Laporta can play though. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, can play even if I got drafted a little early. Amon-Ra St. Brown's legit. They revamped their secondary. 49ers legend Emmanuel Mosley there now. They got I really like what the Lions are doing. I like their direction they're heading. I think that's going to be a fun game.
Okay.
Last overreaction here. The San Francisco Giants are going to miss the playoffs. They've lost their last 4. They've scored 4 runs total in those 4 games. They've been shut out in back-to-back games. They've lost 5 of their last 6. They're 2 games over 500 and now a game out of the wild card.
There's such a weird resiliency to the Giants. I don't like the Giants at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very clear about that. Like everyone has their team. Like growing up, I didn't like the makeup of their team. I didn't like the Will Clark, Robbie Thompson, just like Jose Uribe, Kevin Mitchell. I didn't love that team. Even the version before that with like Candy Maldonado and Jeffrey the Hackman Leonard, like some of those teams, like I didn't love them. But there is a resiliency to them. And it seems like it's almost every year. They're like a gritty team. They don't have enough talent, but they've got 2 really good young pitchers that are rolling. And you got a shot when that's the case. But they can't have these 4 games in a row or 4 out of 5 that they lose. They're a little too streaky. And so so I'm going to say, I think they will still make it. I don't know why. but I think they will.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you. They don't have to score a lot. And right now they're just not scoring at all. So it looks particularly bad. But I think I do think they still sneak in because, like you said, when you have like Logan Webb is I think getting the worst run support in the league right now. He doesn't need a lot. Kyle Harrison's not going to need a lot.
Nope.
And then if you get a third guy pitching well, if you get Alex Cobb pitching well down the stretch, and they need one guy to get hot. And I think they sneak in.
It's tough, like they just don't have a lot of juice. Like,
no, man, they don't. And that's, I'm also not a Giants fan, but I understand the Giants fan complaint. Farhan Zaidi was supposed to turn this team into the Dodgers, right? Where you're signing big names and every prospect you call up is an all-star. And if you're not calling that guy up, then you're trading him for another star. That's what this was supposed to be. And now it's just kind of like Kyle Harrison, like, cool, man. Thanks.
It kind of feels like an entire team of fourth outfielders and utility infielders.
Yeah, the fact that they're as good as they are is a testament to, I think, Gabe Kapler and Farhan Zaidi in terms of just building a team that, the pieces fit together enough to be competitive, but they're not building winners.
No.
And that's
well, they're not paying for a winner.
Right. Exactly.
They're not paying for.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, like Kyle and I are both A's fans, and we get to celebrate the small things like 4 home runs by rookies yesterday, which was great. But like there's a bunch of A's prospects coming up that I would prefer over a bunch of what I'm seeing on the Giants. Like, at least they're fun.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I'll take that right now from the A's. Just be entertaining.
The A's just don't have they don't have the pitching. They don't have the bullpen. They don't have the things to like actually win, but they can at least be entertaining.
No doubt.
Yeah. So we got through overreactions.
We did.
All right.
Those are going to be coming to you every Monday during the NFL season.
Monday overreactions.
Well, they would have come to you Monday if yesterday wasn't a holiday, but I digress.
You digress. All right.
We got to talk about Deion Sanders on the other side. Deion Sanders won the weekend.
He did win the weekend.
Yeah.
All right. So we're
going to hear from him on the other side.
We're going to take a break and we're going to get to Deion Sanders and Colorado, like coming up big. All right. Thank you for tuning into ESPN 1320. We are the Insiders. See you in just a few minutes. Yeah, Russell, Kenny really does want Farhan fired. He does not like.
I think he gets one more offseason. Like if this offseason, if they don't land Shohei, or I'm not 100% familiar with who's a free agent this year, but if they don't either make a seismic trade or land a huge free agent, people aren't going to keep coming out to the ballpark for a team that is going to finish around 500 and maybe in the wild card hunt.
No, that's very true. I'm looking up. Do you watch Welcome to Wrexham? Oh, the first season was good.
I definitely need to.
It was fun,
but I've not watched it yet.
It like 1 out of every 5th episode feels like an infomercial, and you can just skip it. Like it really does. It like I don't know if it's like a Boost Mobile commercial or whatever.
Hilarious.
Like, it always feels like he's pitching his cricket stuff or like
mint
or his gin or whatever it is.
What's it? What was this?
I think it was, but he sold it. Whatever it was, he sold it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like I'm down. Like it's cool, but like the show itself, you'll get to an episode, you'll be like, "Is it gonna be like this the whole time?" You just skip those ones. Yeah,
I have the Deion sound, by the way.
Okay, I hope Russell Hunt. I hope that Bob Melvin is not out in San Diego after this season. But keep in mind, he's had health issues and other stuff. That's an interesting one. Have you I've covered basketball for so long. I didn't know that you're not supposed to call a coach in like Major League Baseball, like when you're doing.
Oh, really?
Bob Melvin. Oh, no.
Yeah, it's Skip
or Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except in college, it's a coach. Reggie Christensen is the Sac State men's baseball head coach, not the manager. Don't get it twisted.
Well, I know that he's a manager, but it still seems like, like an informal greeting for somebody.
Yeah, that's the Lorenzo Neal move. call everybody coach because he doesn't remember anybody's name.
Oh, that makes sense.
A coach. Yeah. I stole that from him. Although now because of the bear, I've started calling people chef.
Oh,
yeah, chef.
Yeah, chef.
5 seconds, by the way.
All right.
You need hands? All right, here you go.
Welcome back to the Insiders on ESPN 1320. I am James Ham. He is Kyle Madsen. Kyle, the star of the weekend, the guy who won the weekend, which I think he tries to win every weekend of his life.
Good point.
Like, I think that they're, like, if there's a camera around, Deion Sanders is looking for it and making sure that, like, he's pointing at it and saying something spectacular. But he had a big weekend. Colorado knocks off TCU. His son throws for 500 yards. They had 4 100-yard receivers. We got Travis. Why am I drawing a blank?
Hunter.
Travis Hunter. Yeah, who plays both ways.
Crazy.
He plays like 175 snaps. No, I mean,
yeah, he doesn't play both ways. Like, he's a really good receiver, and they put him at corner sometimes, or vice versa.
Oh no.
No, man, he is the number 1 wide receiver and a lockdown corner.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he absolutely tremendous. But Deion goes off script all the time, and he had some words here. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so this is Deion Sanders and Ed Werder after the game, because I guess Ed Werder had written something that he did not necessarily believe in what Deion Sanders was doing, basically gutting the Colorado roster, restocking it with transfers and his own guys. Ed Werder was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And then Colorado goes out and hangs up 45 on a TCU team that was in the national championship this January in their building. And they win 45-42. So Ed Werder tried to ask Deion Sanders a question after the game. Here's how it went.
All right. What's up, boss? You believe that? You hold on. Oh no. Do you believe that? Huh? Oh no. I read through that bull junk you wrote down. I read through that. I sifted through all that. Yeah. Oh no. Come on. Do you believe? You don't believe. You just answered it. You don't believe. Next question.
Dang.
Kyle, I don't believe either.
Dang. If you couldn't hear in the background there, when he goes, do you believe? The reporter, like I said, I'm pretty sure it was Ed Werder, goes, well, it was only game 1. And that's when he goes, so you don't believe. All right, next question. My only problem with this, I don't know. Deion being Deion, A+. It is super fun. I think it's good for college football. I watched Colorado TCU. That is not a game I would have tuned into otherwise.
Never.
Wouldn't have been able to tell you anything that was going on.
Nope.
But not only was it a super entertaining game, but I wanted to watch Deion and this group of players. Love it for everybody involved. I hope him and those kids win a bunch of games this year. My one issue with this is that when the reporter said, well, it's only game 1, and he goes, you don't believe, next question. Like, you're only going to take questions from people who are
believing,
who are pro Colorado. Come on, man.
Well, that, and like, if you watch Ted Lasso, they've taken the term believe, like Deion does here, and he takes it from like the most positive of positive words, and he twists it into like a negative in this setting. And like, look, it's not a beat writer's job to ever believe. It's not.
Yeah.
It's to show up and to cover what happened. Ask tough questions. Have like a dialogue if you can with a coach or a player. It is not to say that you believe or you don't believe. And that's why for when you cover a team, it's really hard when people are, what do you think? Like, what's your win total? And you're like, okay, I can give you a win total, but like, I don't like doing grades because I think grades are subjective and unfair.
Right.
Even if I'm doing like numerical grades, like I'll give you an 87 for this season. Like that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
So there are certain things that like, as a reporter, I don't like doing, but I'm certainly, if a coach asks me if I believe, no,
that's not my job, dog.
no. And I certainly not in that setting. Like I might have a discussion with a coach where we have like an honest back and forth about, but off the record and like what it is that you see and they see and like compare notes and like have an honest discussion about a team. but telling someone that you believe in their team is not the job. And and Deion knows that. He's been media.
Yes.
So he knows that fully. And I think he took a really positive word and twisted it into something negative. And I'm glad that the reporter didn't stand up to it. And the one thing I do hope is that reporter shows up every week and has the same exact thing.
Right.
You know, it reminds me of my buddy Brandon Nunez had this moment where it was one of his first press conferences. He fumbled over his words a little bit and asked Luke Walton if he has to hide Tyrese Haliburton on defense. And, you know, or had said something about it. He was doing a good job of hiding him. And Luke answered it the way a coach says, like, I'm not hiding him.
Right.
Like, that's not what I'm doing. And then, of course, Tyrese hears it. And it becomes like this thing. But Ty was hilarious with it. Like, he would be like, hey, Brendan, did I do a better job defensively tonight? It'd be like, yes, you did. And then sometimes he would get done with his press conference and go, I was bleep on defense tonight, wasn't I? And it'd be like, yep. And that's how we went through like the entire season with this little banter back and forth between a young reporter and a young player. And I thought it was funny, but like there was no I believe or I don't believe. Yes, you were better tonight, but you did get beat on that.
Trying to objectively look at the situation.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, if you objectively looked at what Colorado was trying to do, what Deion Sanders was trying to do, is take a bunch of players from FCS, Jackson State, and take them to Colorado and become a D1 program, and also go to TCU and play against a team that was in a national championship game last year. They were 20-point underdogs. Whoever this writer was, again, I think it was Ed Werder, whoever this was not the only one that was, he wasn't banging the drum like Colorado's going to suck. I think there was probably a lot of skepticism about what this was, because nobody's done it before. And you see college football so steeped in tradition and this and that, and you can't do this or that. Deion Sanders is flipping the spread. He is turning whatever college football was on its ear. And people are skeptical about it. And to Deion Sanders' point, or to his argument, there's been a lot of, I think, unhealthy skepticism about him as well. I think there's been a lot of people who have things to say about him that are either mischaracterizing him or just not true. So I think there's some of that where there's some really unfair criticism lobbed at him. But I don't think a skepticism about like, man, I don't think this is going to work. Like, okay, that's a perfectly fair take. He's doing something that's never happened before. And that reporter should have gone, yeah, you know, it's a great win. Because it was, like, objectively, you can say it's a really nice win.
Yeah.
But going like, well, it's just one game. Okay.
Okay. It reminded
Which it
me
was, but come on.
Of another story when DeMarcus Cousins was going to get his extension, and then he took the mic from I believe it was Fox 40, and started interviewing some of the reporters about what their thoughts were on him getting his extension, which ended up being like quite hilarious. Like, I think it was funny, and you know, Aileen Boisson was like, actually, no, I'm not, I don't really love that you're getting an extension. Like, they were honest about it. But it was still like in a moment and in a weird situation. And you're looking at like, okay, I hope that Deion finds success there. But like, if we come back at the end of the season and they're 4-7, and this is like the defining moment of their season, like, you do have to actually prove it. Like,
right.
That's part of this. Like, right. And I know Deion thinks he's already proven it, but you don't prove it with one game. And I hope that we see like more back and forth and more quality discussion, and it's not like this the whole time.
Yeah, that's the thing is this wasn't vitriolic to me.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't angry. He's very clearly like riding high, having a good time. Like, all right, next question. So if this continues where he's like, I will only answer questions from people who are pro Colorado, that's tough for me. That's when I start to kind of get out of his corner a little bit.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that's going to be an all year thing.
No, I hope not. Yeah, I think it should be one of those things where you literally point to and say, hey, look, good for you. Good on you. You did well.
Unbelievable for Colorado. It was such a fun game. And then to have his kid, not only did Shedeur Sanders throw for 510 yards and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, didn't turn it over.
Oof,
Put the ball in the air 47 times and completed 38 of his throws.
that's incredible.
He was really, really good, man.
All right, you know what? It's happened. We've made it through our first show.
Whew.
The Insiders.
How many more of these do we have?
We are one show old. This has never happened before. Thank you everyone for tuning in. It's been a blast. Kyle and I are working things out, and we're gonna keep plugging away here on the Insiders. But this first show has gone extremely well, and I just want to thank everybody out there for tuning in and being part of our first show. We're gonna hand this thing over to D'Lo and Casey. They're gonna take you from 12 to 4, and we will see you tomorrow.
And remember, don't go anywhere on your stream. Like, we are staying right here. It's gonna stay up. And yeah, thanks to everybody in the chatty house. It's really nice doing a show like this and turning around and seeing people engaging live. Like, that's one of the hardest parts of radio. So chatty house makes it. Can we call it the chatty house? Can we steal that name?
Yes.
Okay, great. Chatty house. Shout out to you guys. Thanks, everybody.